Everyone, Alan here with the Christian Channel. I am so excited to be joined today with director Matthew Brown and actor Matthew Goode about their new film, Freud's Last Session, which I, of course, spoiler alert, loved. Guys, gentlemen, congratulations on an excellent film.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good to hear. Thank you.
I did a little bit of background research. I wanted to be prepared, obviously. And I saw that this was originally a book and then a play. And now you, Matthew Brown, have turned it into a film. Is that correct?
You got it. Exactly. Yes.
Okay, what inspired you to turn this into a film? And I'm so glad you did.
Well, it was presented to me by a producer and I was considering it and I wasn't quite sure. It was a pretty early draft of the script and it read more like the play at the time. And I was a little hesitant, but I think it was the book. The book was called A Question of God. And I think that's really like that line right there. That's it for me. It got those bigger themes of this. They really drew me in and it made me just curious to the debate and then once you get into it, you start to learn about these two men and their very, very unique human experiences, to say the least. So it was, and that pulled me in even further because there's the two sides of it. You've got the philosophical debate that's going on that none of us really, we all would like to know, but we don't quite know because we're alive. And then you have the human sort of therapy sessions, for lack of a better word, and they also started to draw me in more and more as I realized what they were both contending with. So.
Yeah, and maybe this is silly of me, but one of the first things I did once I got sucked into the movie was I Googled, is this a true story?
Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe. I mean, I was like, you got to be kidding me. These guys both need, they deserve to have some therapy, So.
Yeah, totally. So you adapted the script, right, to make it into a film because the writing was phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's really, Mark St. Germain was the other. He was the original writer. He wrote the play, which was was based so much on the book, which was really a lecture series that went on for about 30 years. Really interesting. I wish I could have taken part in that. But yeah, I helped on the screenplay as well.
Wonderful. And then were the reverie sequences were those original to the play, or were those your invention? Because that was probably one of my favorite parts of the film, were the moments that we go into dream sequences or memories.
Thank you. No, that was more the result of me and Mark, but me. And I just felt like I didn't want to tell a story of just two men in the room, and I felt we needed to understand who these people were, and the only way to do that is to really show them at some critical junctures, and it makes it far more cinematic, I think. So
totally agree. And you seem like a very humble person. You're like, it was me. It was me. Your favorite part of the movie was me. You're very humble about it, but it really added so much dimension. So incredible job.
Thank you very much.
And Matthew Goode, I am, of course, familiar with you from one of my favorite rom-coms of all time, Leap Year. Huge fan. My friends and I all watched it together last year. It was really exciting to see you in this role because it's so different. And you brought this incredible self-possession and stature to the role that really gave an aura of, I immediately was like, oh, am I watching a BBC classic? Like, it's just incredible. And a great script and a great filmmaker will take you so far. And then the next half of it really is going to be the way that yourself and Anthony Hopkins fill these great shoes. So incredible job. How do you fill the shoes of C.S. Lewis on screen?
Well, I mean, that's very kind of you. I mean, the elephant in the room is the fact that those shoes have already been filled by my co-star in this, because Anthony already did that in Shadowlands, which still is one of my favorite performances. And it tends to be that Anthony's performances are always they're never going to outdate, that's for sure. So, but yeah, I mean, I obviously knew Lewis as a child, and I loved his work. I mean, I reread Chronicles of Narnia several times. I just loved it. And you just do your research, huge amounts of research, and I mean, there was a few conflicting stories about him, but I mean, effectively, the stuff that he wrote in Surprised by Joy was the stuff that I sort of buried down on a little bit, because it's his own words of his childhood, and it was just one like really, really useful. And but then after you've done the research, you've got to throw it out the window, and then you've got to get in the room and duke it out, and well, verbally with Tony and what he brought with Freud, and it was just a joy. It was one of the to have him for I mean, we knocked out half the film in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was intense. It was quite intense.
That's great. That segues into my next question perfectly. Gentlemen, if you don't mind me asking, how was it for you spiritually to be filming this conflicting conversation? Like, I have to imagine, just as it poses these questions to the viewer, it has to be posing huge questions to you as individuals as you go through this intense process, right?
Yeah. Yes, very much so.
Yeah. I'm probably more for you, Matthew, I guess, embodying the Lewis in the midst of all this. I mean, I don't know. I'm so trying
to get to play an atheist and a full-blown Christian in the same thing is quite a trip. And some of it didn't make it into the movie. There is stuff that we couldn't. It would have been too long, and perhaps some of the bits where he is sort of, I don't know, spiritually in. Well, you actually see the moment where that didn't quite make it. Anyway, but personally, I think like anyone, it's like no one's ever proved that it's. I mean, Jesus did exist. That's the point. I mean, that's what C.S. Lewis was saying. He's like, his trilemma was, if you read it and you do your research, there's only three things it can be. One is that he was mad. One is that he was bad, or one is that he was God, or the Son of God. And it's very difficult when you look at that kind of thing. When you go, was he deceitful? Was he trying to get money out of people? Well, no. Was he mad? Like he's like, well, he seems pretty reasonable, and actually, what he's sort of spouting or spewing is things that should make humanity better. And well, that only really leaves us with one option, and that's that he's the Son of God. So. Yeah, I still don't know where I stand on it all, but I think every day I see things in the world where I go, God, that's miraculous that happens. Like, wow. Oftentimes it's something that's tragic, and you think, how can that be allowed to happen? So I it's a quandary, and the greatest answer or the question of all time.
It's omnipresent, when you're working on something.
Ironically, yeah.
You can't not think of. I mean, when we're shooting it, I wasn't thinking about it because I was like, please, Lord, see there, I was thinking about it, but begging him to help me get through the day and make it on time. But that's why I wanted to make it, was because it's so interesting to actually have discussion about, and it was fun. I mentioned it before, but it's just that when I talked to my wife's brother, who's a pastor, and I showed him the film, and I was quite nervous to show it to him. He saw an early cut of it, and he loved it, and he was like, it's so great because it makes you think about questioning your faith, and that's what this Lewis is going through here, and that's like so important to him, and I think these questions, whether you believe or don't believe or whatever, just to be able to talk about them and think about them is so important. And we don't do that as a society enough because we're afraid to open up our mouths, it feels like. So,
and also, if two of the greatest minds of the 20th century can't figure it out, then it's worth pondering by us all.
I agree. I found this to be one of the best modern media depictions of Pascal's wager that I've seen in a while. So I was really impressed. Gentlemen, we're running out of time, but I do want to ask, when can people see this film and how can they see this film?
Well, we opened December 22nd in New York and Los Angeles, and then I guess it expands in January, and I think it's going to come hopefully to a theater near you, actually, for real. So that's exciting.
That is really exciting. It has my full recommendation for Christian and non-Christian audiences alike. Thank you so much for your time.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and a Merry Christmas.
Oh, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Bye.
Bye.